Hi everyone, I'm Lucy from Startup Recon and I'm joined today by Brian Dubb. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us about your company.
All right, yeah, my name is Brian Dubb. I'm the founder of Centralized Me. I am an artist and a manager. And after managing some wonderful, beautiful artists like Nano Stern and Imogen Heap, I've decided to dedicate my time to providing the guidance and the conversation and the information and tools to those tens of millions of artists out there that will never get access to this kind of management. And we do know that it's essential for the progress of good music to have good management. So we're trying to solve this problem.
Awesome. So how long have you been in the music industry?
I think I started writing or playing my first really bad songs on my own at about 5 or 6. And I think I promoted my first show at school when I was 14 or 15. So yeah, it's been a while.
Awesome. And how did you feel and what were the barriers that you had when coming up as an artist yourself?
I mean, the music aside, um, the the barriers around the industry that really struck me at the beginning was the lack of information. Anytime you wanted to do something, let's say the next natural step. So if I had a band on the east coast of Australia and you're like 19 years old, how do you tour up the coast? Just to find that out. You know, if one wasn't going to just get in a vehicle and go and busk, how do you actually get to these venues? How do you do this? That was one thing. When we were then looking to do record deals and that sort of thing, to actually find out what the percentages were, because we were all self-managed. We were part of that, early generation of being self-managed. Just to find out how a record deal was broken up was almost impossible unless you paid a lawyer, unless you did these kind of things. So that the information seemed to be the biggest barrier.
And do you think that's become more accessible now?
I think it has, but also everything is in a major state of flux. Um, I might be giving away my age a little bit, but when we were looking to do deals at that age, it was right at the beginning of P2P file sharing. So the music business, the record business in particular, was very much in the paradigm of where it used to be. You got advances in order to record music. It was really the start of great indie labels like Sub Pop and those kind of ones. They were really early movers in that space, Rough Trade and people like that. Otherwise it was all majors paying for everything.
And working within management, how do you feel that you've had to adapt and other managers have adapted to the digital era and social media being so important for the artist?
Well, I think good management, you don't really have a choice. You're adapting to where your artist is going, to where the artist is moving, and you're adapting to the world around you. You're dealing with everything. So you have no choice. It's not like you're leaning back on some huge catalog, that makes money while you sleep. If you're managing independent artists and you're an independent manager, you're living day to day. You really have to be able to react and pivot very quickly.
And how do you think the industry has changed over that time? Do you think it's adapted? I know you were working with Imogen Heap and blockchain and mycelia, and that was really coming to revolutionize how music is distributed and how the artist is paid. And I was just wondering what your opinion in that area is.
Look, I mean, my earliest memory of major change in music was the P2P file sharing, Napster and Emule,
Mm-hmm.
which eviscerated the recorded business as they knew it. So that was the first major change. And the digitization of music went on, and then we got streaming and Spotify and Apple Music, which certainly from a listener's point of view, if I take off my musician and manager's hat and I only look at it from a listening point of view, this is probably the greatest gift to music lovers ever. I mean, before that, it was the P2P file sharing where you could get songs, B-sides, live takes from artists that you love that you could never think of getting. Otherwise, they were never released. So Spotify and them were just incredible for the music listener. And through that period as well, the live industry, absolutely exploded with the whole explosion of festivals and the massive increase in ticket prices. So it became this huge business. And then not 6 months ago, without, I guess in the same way that the record business could never have predicted P2P file sharing, So the live business could never have predicted this COVID pandemic and the reaction to it. And so you have this enormously huge, lucrative business that's virtually smashed within sort of 30 days. It just disappeared. And we have no idea when it's going to come back. So music's a little bit like that, it seems, or certainly in the time that I've been involved with it, it seems to have these huge changes that just really sweep things aside. Although the consistency is that there's great music and more of it. So that seems to survive above all. In the time I had with Imogen Heap, she introduced me to the blockchain. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning as well, when I was working with her, it was the start of the Bitcoin bubble. So there was a lot of froth and hot air and that around it. Luckily, I was with her and learning about it from her. And so you could really see that. I'll backtrack. When I was at university in Australia, I wrote not a thesis, but a paper or something on the coming destruction of the music business and how it was, it was the P2P file sharing. I surely was not the only one. Jimmy Iovine speaks about it in that Netflix special with Dr. Dre. The moment they saw P2P file sharing, they realized it was all over. And everyone, of course, at the time thought I was crazy. But the main thing that the vision I saw ahead, because we were starting in the digital age, was that why can't every time every song is played, whether it's on a television show, whether it's on a radio station, why can't you track that and pay it? Mm-hmm. Why does it have to go through this opaque performing rights situation of licenses and blanket licenses and things that no matter who you ask, no one really seems to be able to track that. So it really, for years, we've been crying out for an accurate system of plays, counts, value according to that. And now we start to see that the tech has caught up. And you start to see, as low as it may be per stream, what does Spotify, what does YouTube, what does Tencent, what do they all pay per stream? What does SiriusXM pay? And so we're moving to that situation. And the blockchain, from what I can see and from what I believe, when it matures and becomes reliable and robust, you'll be able to do that. And you'll be able to track every single play. Of course, what I didn't predict was just the massive explosion in the use of music in the digital age, which just seems to be accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. I mean, before it used to be you get a sync on a TV show or a movie and you get played on radio. Now you have streaming, you have digital radio, you have what I call micro syncs. You have Shutterstock and ArtGrid and others, Artlist, giving people the opportunity to get music that's real music that they can license, and you have the stuff all over the net and YouTube IDs, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So I think the blockchain is going to play a huge role in accounting for that.
You mentioned COVID, and how do you feel that's going to affect your business, like the business of music generally, and also impact your business in terms of will less artists be going towards music as an actual career?
So COVID seems to be an interesting phenomenon in that it's accelerating trends that were already there. So, the digitization, the internet of everything was already, had been gathering pace for 20 years and it was very strong. And now it's just fast forwarded really, really quickly. So you have a lot of people stuck at home. So for our business, that's great because everyone's taking the time to learn and taking the time to engage in digital tools because they don't have a choice because they're stuck at home. There's this interesting thing when you had file sharing and piracy. A lot of people in the music business said it was going to kill creativity. Okay, no one was going to get into music anymore. And of course, we saw the exact opposite happen. So not only was there a downward trend in the cost of producing music, where you would pay millions of dollars versus, you can almost do it for free with BandLab and other tools. So we've had a massive explosion in the output and creativity and production of music. So I think this COVID will, firstly, people are stuck at home. So we're going to see an incredible explosion of content from this period. I think people are rather sort of making content than making babies. So we're going to have a lot of, we're going to have a lot of new music out there. And I don't think that this, from what I can see, a lot of our users are really young. And I don't see them stopping. And, there's just so many more uses of music now. And don't forget, because we're not really in the music business per se, we're interested in everybody that's not in the music business. Now, these people are playing to audiences of 50, 100, 150. They're playing at underground parties. The fact that there's not going to be big festivals or big arena tours, or, you know, all the Live Nation venues are going to be closed, has no impact on these kids, okay? Because they're not there. They're not getting booked in any of those places. And I think that music is such a thing in life that every new generation comes in. Every year there's more and more people getting into music. And a lot of them, it's not about, you know, their version of success is not about making a ton of money or that sort of thing. You know, it's much more about expressing yourself and getting that reaction from an audience. And only once they start to see that reaction, they start to see that their music is resonating, then it goes from being a hobby into more of a business. So for us, it's quite a positive time.
Just one more question. I was just wondering about Centralized Me, specifically. Were there any key points where you were like, this business is going to be viable because, and were there any key points where you decided to just come up with the idea?
I'll answer the second one first. When I had a business called MPAL Pro, which along with M Theory in America, I think we were the first people to really offer management as a service, where it was like when I said when I first met Imogen, it was like, here's a menu of management services. Why don't you just tick what you want, like in a restaurant, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it was perfect for her at that time, and she was really into it. So when she became a client, I thought to myself, well, you know, I can get other artists, you know, other really high profile artists like her. And the very first one that I spoke to was Balkan Beatbox, which was a bunch of Israeli guys that had started this act in New York, and they'd done very, very well. And because I was in Tel Aviv at the time, I met them in their studio, and they looked at this and said, you know, this is the future of management. This is incredible, but why do you want to keep working with established artists? I mean, you got very lucky with Imogen Heap. She's a sweetheart, but most of us are just horrible to be around, you know, and there must be tens of millions of young artists out there who never have access to this. You're in Israel, you should make a startup, you know? So, and that was kind of the light bulb moment when I thought, no, that's 100% right, and started, you know, getting into it. But as to when did I think it was going to be viable, you know, I'm not sure. It's a startup. We have a long way to go. It's actually really interesting that there's a story that was written out of Silicon Valley at the start of the Corona crisis. And they said that Silicon Valley and investors are always looking for unicorns, you know, the next multi-billion-dollar company. But the only trouble with a unicorn is that every time you put money into its mouth, the money sort of disappears as glitter ether behind the rainbow, and it immediately wants more money. Whereas a camel, when you give it money, it can go into the desert and come back 2 weeks later and be fine. And only then will it need money. So, you know, we're a camel riding out of the Arabian desert. Our survival is the key focus at the moment. We're looking to bring this company to profitability as soon as possible, and from that strong foundation to grow from there.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank you.
It's been really interesting. Thanks, Brian.